I'm Mira Calhoun, 32, the reliable one my family kept in the wings. I went to their grand celebration in a navy dress I had steamed twice, hoping the fabric would hold my spine up. Ordinary night, big hotel, a ballroom full of glass and light. Then the shock my brother's girlfriend Sable Hart, 28, all diamond lashes and poison pointed at me and said loud enough to slice the room. "Security! Remove her!" The guards moved, people watched. I made a decision that saved me. I didn't beg. I didn't explain. I walked out and promised myself this before sunrise, they would learn what it cost to erase me. If you're listening, tell me the time and the city below. I want to know who's here. As I opened the door, they slammed in my face. I parked my old Corolla between a Bentley and a gull-wing Mercedes. The valet blinked like he'd discovered a stray dog on the red carpet. I smiled anyway. A jade pendant lay cool at my throat, my mother's. I wore it to every family event, a ritual I didn't question until tonight. Inside the ballroom gleamed. Gold fabric draped the walls in folds like a theater about to lie. Towers of champagne stretched taller than I am. Someone had arranged 7 types of macarons on a glass tree, pistachio, rose lemon espresso, and flavors that tasted like money. Laughter rose in expensive little bursts. I searched for a soft corner. There wasn't one. The first whisper slid over marble. "There she is." A woman with a shoulder of sequins didn't lower her voice. The sister who never finished anything. I kept walking. Another voice, a man this time. Why did Lachlan even invite her? He didn't know I had paid the deposit on the room we were standing in. He didn't know I had paid for a lot of things. I touched the pendant. In my head, my mother still said, "Chin up, darling." But she'd been gone 4 years, and the people left behind had sharpened their smiles. Sable leaned near the velvet rope to the VIP section. Her dress matched the drapes. Her eyes tracked me like I was a stain that had moved. "Look who crawled in," she sang. Then she raised her hand and called the guards. They didn't want to do it. I saw it in their eyes, that flinch of human decency. "Ma'am," one said soft. It didn't soften anything. I froze. That old reflex. "Please don't make a scene, Mira. Please don't embarrass the family." I heard my brother before I found his face. Lachlan, 35, handsome, like an ad for trust funds. He looked at me, and then he looked away. It was easy for him. He'd practiced. The humiliation wasn't the grip on my elbow. It was the silence of people who knew us. Investors, family friends, a math teacher from our prep school who used to tell me I had discipline. No one said a word. When the doors closed behind me, the night air hit me like a truth you can't shut out. The parking lot smelled like hot asphalt and cologne. I leaned against my car and let the shutter move through me. The city hummed. My hands shook and then steadied. I took the pendant off and set it in my palm. Last time I said, the jade was the color of rainwater. It had no power except what I gave it. I put it in my purse. The drive home was quiet. No music, no calls. The freeway lights pulled past like a metronome. Every few seconds I saw Sable's smirk in my mind. Then Lachlan's eyes flat as a lake in a drought. By the time I reached my street, the shock had burned off, leaving something colder. I unlocked my townhouse and went straight to my small office. The room is orderly, 2 framed diplomas, a plant that pretends not to be dying, a photo of my mother at 30. Her laugh caught mid-flight. I set my purse down and placed the pendant beside the keyboard. It looked smaller there, like the past finally admitting it was in the past. They call me useless, I thought. Useless when I covered Lachlan's ballooning credit line. Useless when I co-signed the warehouse lease in Milwaukee. Useless when I flew to Houston and pitched investors because he hated the energy in rooms full of doubt. I opened my laptop, not to write a journal entry, to move weight. Our names lived together on several accounts. Family efficiency, Lachlan liked to say. Efficiency that meant my money flowed when his didn't. I logged in and found the first one. Freeze. Confirmation ping. A second account. Freeze. A third, the travel fund my mother created years ago for memories that had become Sable's Paris weekends. Freeze. The sound of the keyboard steadied me. It felt like tapping glass until it cracked. My phone started buzzing. Lachlan. Again. I flipped it face down. Silence was a relief and a tactic. Let him wonder. Let him pace while the numbers changed without his consent. I pulled up the corporate dashboard. I still had access to the one they never noticed I kept when they streamlined me out. Old habits. I read the ledgers like you read a diary. Dates, transfers, names of companies that were cushions and shells. Someone had gotten lazy. You leave prints when you think you'll never be asked for proof. I smiled without joy. There it was. Not all of it yet. Enough to know where to dig. Don't do anything rash. I heard as if Lachlan were perched on my printer. Don't make this harder. I'd heard that voice since I was a teenager, a velvet rope inside my head. Tonight, I stepped over it. I called Noah Levin, my financial advisor. He sounded like I'd woken him from a safe dream. Mira, I'm fine, I said, and it was almost true. First thing in the morning, initiate the sale of my stake in Calhoun and Drake. All of it. There was silence, then the careful tone people use when they think you might throw a match into a dry field. That's a lot of capital. We should talk strategy. There will be blowback. Good, I said. I'm aiming for blowback. Sleep on it, he tried. We can... Noah, do it. My voice surprised me. Calm, clear, like a person used to being heard. I ended the call. The shaking had stopped. My hands were steady enough to write. I drafted an email to the board of Calhoun and Drake, the company Lachlan and I built in our 20s on Coffee Charm, and my credit. I attached documents people had overlooked because they like their stories simple. Founding paperwork with my signature in ink. Lines of funding that carried my name alone. The boring, undeniable stuff that decides who gets to speak. I didn't send it. Not yet. Timing is a lever. You pull it when the floorboards creak the loudest. The house grew very quiet. The refrigerator hummed. A siren far away rose and fell. I poured a glass of water and didn't drink it. I stood at the sink and thought about the years I'd spent applauding from the aisle. The dinners where my ideas became Lachlan's anecdotes. The times our mother told me, support is your gift. Maybe it is. Maybe I've just been giving it to the wrong people. My phone lit the counter again. A text from an unknown number. We can fix this if you stop now. Be smart. Sable. I deleted it. I would not be taught intelligence by a woman who confused audacity with credentials. Back at my desk, I opened the folder no one knows I keep. I had started it quietly after the first time Lachlan forgot to pay me back because cash was tight, but optics were great. It held copies of transfers, emails, amended agreements. He'd asked me to just sign Mira. I'll walk you through it later. I had walked myself through it instead. Tonight, the folder felt less like paranoia and more like a parachute. I sorted. I labeled. I highlighted. Every few minutes, I looked at the pendant and remembered how it used to feel like armor. The truth felt better. At 2 a.m, I took a shower as hot as I could stand. Steam fogged the mirror. I pressed my forehead to the glass and watched the fog clear a little circle around my face. I looked older than yesterday. I looked like I belonged to myself. Back in the office, I wrote one sentence in my journal because I wanted to see it in my own handwriting. I am not the understudy of my life. Then I built the next steps. Legal first. A name came to me, Jessa Klein, a corporate attorney with a reputation for being precise, unsentimental, impossible to move. I drafted an email requesting a meeting with attachments I knew would get her attention. Then I scheduled my board letter. It would arrive at 9:05 a.m. when the office coffee was still too hot and people hadn't put their masks on yet. Dawn stained the edges of the blinds. The city shifted colors. I didn't sleep. I didn't want to. Exhaustion felt like a debt I no longer owed. I put the pendant back on, not for luck, but to remind myself that stories can change owners. When the first sparrow started up outside my window, I closed my laptop. The day would be loud. Before it was, I stood in the doorway of my office and looked at the life I had furnished for everyone but me. The plant on the shelf, the photos of trips I paid for, the chair that had molded to my waiting. Enough! I picked up my phone. A final text had arrived while I wasn't looking. Lachlan, call me. We can make this go away. I smiled. It was already too late for that, the first crack. I didn't call Lachlan back. I called Jessa. She replied before the kettle clicked off, voice clipped and awake like she'd been waiting for a fight. Preserve everything she said. Don't touch company servers from your home IP. Print hard copies. Download Verify Mirror to a clean drive. Then meet me at 8:45. It felt like someone turned on the lights in a dark room. I moved fast. I pulled the founding documents again and stamped each page with the date. I exported ledgers from the old dashboard I still could reach, not through the main portal, but a forgotten admin link I'd kept the day they optimized my role. I saved PDFs. I wrote file notes in plain words a jury would understand. At 9:05, my board email went out with attachments sorted and labeled like a surgeon's tray. For 10 seconds, there was quiet. Then the phone shook on the desk. Lachlan, then unknown, then Marcus Bell, our CFO, who never called me unless the house was on fire. I let the first two go. I answered Marcus. "You sent something heavy," he said, voice low, careful. "The board will read it." He paused, then added, almost like a confession. "Compliance flagged certain disbursements last quarter. I was overruled. I heard the word that mattered. Overruled. By whom, I asked. He exhaled. The directive came from the top. He didn't say Lachlan's name. He didn't have to. I wrote down the time, the words, the fact that a cautious man had finally told the truth to someone who would use it. Lachlan's name flashed again. I let it pass. I put my shoes on, tucked the jade pendant inside my blouse so it wouldn't catch the eye, and drove to Jess's office. She worked out of a suite that smelled like linen and clean decisions. She shook my hand and studied my face like she was measuring the temperature of steel. I slid the folder across her desk. She didn't skim. She read, "You have more than equity," she said. "You have process. Your signature on formation papers. Your funds underwriting expansions. He can't paint you as a bystander." She tapped 3 pages. "This vendor, Odyssey Dynamics Consulting. It's a shell. The invoices are vague. Dates trail personal travel." She opened her laptop and pulled a state registry. The owner of record was a trust created 2 months after Sable entered our lives. The trustee was a boutique agent in Nevada. The mailing address was a mailbox that forwards to a building I knew very well, the same floor as Sable's branding studio. Jessa didn't smile. "If we can trace benefit, we don't need confession. We need timeline and pattern." My phone buzzed with a voicemail while we worked. I checked it in the hallway. A young voice strained. "Ms. Calhoun, this is Elliot from Accounts Payable. I thought I was calling Mr. Bell. We moved the retainer for Odyssey into client well-being and backdated the memo. I'm scared." He hung up fast as if fear had yanked the cord. I stood still, the corridor hum in my ears. There it was. Not rumor, not suspicion. A detail no one would invent under pressure, a specific ledger line, a specific lie. In Jessa's office, I relayed the message word for word. She nodded like a chess player seeing 3 moves ahead. "We'll protect him as a whistleblower if needed. For now, document his call and don't return it direct. We'll route through counsel." She drew a neat box on her pad. "Lever's temporary restraining order to preserve records, a board demand for a special committee, and a public contingency if he smears you." She looked at me. "He will smear you." I knew. He had trained for it. We built the plan in pieces. I would not torch the company, not the people who carried it. I asked about payroll. If I pulled my stake, and the bank called covenants, the first to get hurt, would be receptionists and drivers and warehouse crews who never saw a bonus check. That thought made my throat tight. I remembered Lena at the front desk taking night classes, always hiding a thick textbook under the podium. "We protect them," I said. Jessa's eyes warmed a degree. "Set aside a payroll bridge in escrow. You release it only if leadership changes and a special committee opens a forensic audit. We bake it into the board resolution. They'll call it poison. It's actually a shield." It felt right. Not revenge. Repair with conditions. Outside, a police siren wailed and faded. Inside, I watched my name appear in a draft motion like it belonged in a sentence with words such as enjoin and preserve. When I left, the sky had that thin, bright look of a morning that's decided what it wants to be. At a corner cafe, I met my anchor Kaya, who once took my call at 3 a.m. When I thought I was losing language, she slid me a bagel and said, Eat like we were in the middle of a storm and calories were rope. I told her the short version. She didn't interrupt, didn't chase drama. She listened and then gave me a simple gift. Your plan cares for the people on the floor, not the people on the stage. Keep that, it's your compass. She also dropped a breadcrumb without meaning to. Saw Sable at the spa last week, she said. She told someone on speaker she owned the boardroom without even having a badge. I tucked that away. People who brag leak facts. Back home, I opened the secure laptop Jess's tech sent over a clean machine with no shared history. I logged into the archive path I had set up years ago, the one that copied certain directories at midnight. There was a folder I'd never seen before. Amaranth. Inside were subfolders named with months tucked among drafts of marketing plans, airline receipts, transfers routed through Odyssey, hotel charges tagged Team Wellness, Capri Tulum, Kyoto, the kind of wellness that fits into a slideshow if you blur the details. Each file had a metadata signature, dates, user IDs, and editor string that included Lachlan's login twice 3 months apart final, and then final 2. He was careful enough to use vague labels, not careful enough to avoid fingerprints. I printed the index and saved a mirror to the external drive. Then I baited a line. I created a decoy memo called Clarion Proposal and seeded it with a harmless but enticing note about renegotiating a supplier discount. I placed it in a directory I knew Lachlan watched. 10 minutes later, my access log captured a remote view from his device. 2 minutes after that, a lifestyle blogger posted a blind item about a cold-blooded sister sabotaging a family business using the exact phrasing I had planted. Sable had friends with blogs. Good. Now I knew how fast gossip moved from his screen to public mud. I downloaded security footage from the hotel too. The lobby manager owed me a favor from a charity gala where I'd fixed a spreadsheet error that would have ruined their auction. He sent the clip without a lecture Sable in clear audio instructing staff to remove me. Insurance for later, not a weapon for today. Lachlan finally left a voicemail I chose to hear. Mira, this is unnecessary. You're making yourself look unstable. If you come in quietly, I'll make sure you're comfortable. He used that word like a leash. Comfortable. I saved the file with the others. I wrote a note for future me, do not dignify that frame. Then I called Noah back. We paced through tax implications and the press angle and the tempo of the sale. We settled on a narrow window, strike before he could move lines of credit I'd helped secure. After that, I phoned Marcus and in a voice cool enough to land without drama, asked for board minutes from the last 4 meetings. He hesitated, then sent them, and I saw something small and telling. A new line under other business discretionary authority for brand counseling. No debate, no vote count, just a line as if air had carried it in. Screw subtlety. I texted Jessa the page number. She responded with one sentence. That's your bridge to the audit. Afternoon slid toward evening, and with it, the first real consequence. HR sent a company-wide email asking staff not to discuss family matters online. The tone was brittle. I imagined Lena reading it and tucking her phone away. I thought about Elliot listening to his own pulse in his ear as he decided whether to tell me the truth. Their faces steadied me more than any pep talk. I drafted my next move, a board demand to form an independent special committee with authority to hire an outside firm paid from my escrow to audit specific vendors, including Odyssey. Attached was the payroll bridge term sheet that guaranteed 60 days of salaries if leadership changed and the audit commenced. I added one last attachment, a letter to employees I would release only if Lachlan smeared me publicly again. It said simply that I would never burn their jobs to warm my hands. At dusk, Kaya texted me a screenshot of Sable's friend's post. The caption read, "Some women don't know their lane." I laughed once short, not kind. Then I put my hand on the stack of paper I'd built in a single day and felt the weight of it. The lane had moved. Near midnight, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't expected. Helena Pierce, a senior board member who had patted my shoulder at fundraisers for a decade. "I've read your letter," she said. "If half of this stands, he won't survive a vote. I won't watch a company I helped build become a joke." She didn't ask for my motives. She asked for my proof. I told her exactly what I had and exactly what I would do to protect every paycheck on the floor. When she hung up, I knew the ground had shifted. Tomorrow would be louder. I checked the mirror. I didn't look fearless. I looked decided. Part 3. Begins with the board doors closing, the air thinning, and the first time Lachlan's confidence misfires in front of witnesses who can finally see the numbers. The boardroom turns. I arrived early. Jessa was already there, sleeves neat, eyes bright. The conference floor smelled like cool air and polish. The windows threw the city back at itself. Marcus hovered near the coffee cart, jaw-tight tie, loosened a single notch the most careless I'd ever seen him. Board members filed in by habit and rank. Helena came last, quiet shoes, clear gaze. Lachlan entered with a smile that had survived too many parties. Sable followed in a blazer that pretended to be serious. She didn't sit. She wanted to be seen without looking responsible. I placed my folders at seat 6. Jessa set her laptop between us and spoke first steady and formal. On behalf of Ms. Calhoun, we move for immediate preservation of electronic records, formation of a special committee, and approval of an escrowed payroll bridge. The room paused like a chest before the next breath. Lachlan coughed out a laugh. "Counsel, this is a private family disagreement. We won't hijack company time." He kept his eyes on me. "Mira, you've made your point. Don't torch the place that feeds people." He thought that line would shame me. I let it pass and answered with the one lever he hadn't expected. This bridge feeds them. 60 days of payroll if leadership changes and an independent audit begins. It activates only if the board does its duty. I slid the term sheet across the table. The math was simple and decent. Marcus read it and exhaled through his nose. Relief looks small when it's in a room full of fear. Jessa clicked, and the screen lit with a clean index. Exhibit A. Formation documents with Ms. Calhoun's capital contributions. Exhibit B. Vendor payments to Odyssey Dynamics Consulting. Exhibit C. The Amaranth Archive. She let the names land like stones. Lachlan shifted once, then stilled. I watched the board, not him. People study numbers to see if they can believe their own instincts. Page by page, doubt turned into something heavier. Helena leaned forward. Mr. Bell did compliance flag these. Marcus didn't look at Lachlan. Yes. And overruled. The word hit like a gavel. Jessa advanced to a simple slide. Dates, sums, trip locations stamped into innocuous memos. Capri labeled team wellness. Tulum folded into brand counseling. Kyoto tucked under client well-being. The pattern was the point. You could trace intent by the way the lines curved to the same place. Lachlan cleared his throat and went for his angle. There's a context here. Growth requires cultivating image. You can't quantify influence in the old way. Also, my sister has been under stress. She's making leaps. He softened his voice. Mira, come on. We're family. Helena's eyes did not move from the screen. Show us Exhibit D, she said. Jessa played the hotel clip. Sable's voice was crisp. Security! Remove her! You could see the decision sit on her face like a crown. No one spoke. Sable folded her arms and tried to turn bored. I kept my voice level. I am not here for revenge. I am here for the people who don't sit at this table. You can keep me out of photos. You cannot write me out of the ledger. Then I pushed the smallest, sharpest piece across the wood. A printed registry for Odyssey. A trustee that resolves to the floor of Sable's studio. Not a smoking gun. Enough kindling to make smoke mean something. Jessa followed with the draft order for a temporary freeze on deletion of any electronic record, including cloud mirrors and personal devices used for company work. Commissioners do not like destroyed trails. Boards do not like headlines about destroyed trails. Lachlan rolled his pen between his fingers. That was his tell when he felt a corner behind him. He tried one more posture. Let's table this. He glanced at Marcus, then at the two youngest director's men who owed him tickets and favors. We'll bring in our own reviewer. Helena didn't raise her voice. No. Independent external with full access. Take the vote. Sable whispered something fast and thin. Lachlan ignored her. He looked at me and tried the name from our childhood. Mouse. I didn't blink. We're not kids. Call the question. The secretary called roll. Hands rose. 1 abstained. 2 waited, and then followed the line that looked like survival. Helena voted last. Aye. Motion carried. The room felt different. The air wasn't lighter. It was honest. Jessa slid the payroll bridge agreement to Marcus. This funds upon board notice of interim leadership and engagement of the special committee. Marcus's shoulders dropped a fraction. He nodded once, professional and grateful. Lachlan went cold. Rage on him looks like ice. You're undermining an engine that pays thousands of mortgages. I met his eyes and kept my voice soft enough to make everyone lean in. No. I'm refusing to fund your weekends. He slammed his palm, once a hollow sound against expensive wood. This company is me. It was a mistake to say it that plainly in public. You could feel the room withdraw. Jessa kept the pressure firm and procedural. We have a proposed resolution for temporary reassignment of CEO duties to the COO while the committee conducts its review. She passed the draft down the line. The COO, a careful woman named Raina Park, sat straighter without moving much else. Lachlan tried to pivot. Raina isn't prepared. Raina answered with one clean sentence. I am prepared. You could almost hear the backbone slide into place. Another vote, tighter. It passed, not by theater, by math. Jessa then placed envelopes on the table. Litigation hold notices for key custodians and an instruction sheet for digital preservation. Lachlan didn't open his. He stared at me like he could reorder me by focus alone. Then he tried the smear in a last graceless rush. She's unstable. She went nuclear overnight. Helena cut him off with the weight of a woman who had paid bills and buried friends and carried teams over decades. She built this with you. She protected the floor. She brought proof. Enough. He shut his mouth. Silence returned in the only shape I trusted, the kind that comes after a decision. When the formalities ended, people stood. The city glittered, pretending it hadn't watched us. Sable slipped out first, phone in hand, already planting a version for the internet. Marcus gathered the envelopes like a man handling live wires. Raina asked for a quick sidebar about rollout and morale. Jessa and I agreed to draft a staff memo that mentioned stability and respect and nothing about scandal. Facts would come through the committee, not rumors. In the hallway, Helena touched my arm. You did not gloat, she said. Good. This will save us. Her voice lowered half an inch. He will retaliate. I know I said. I've planned for it. As if the moment had been scheduled, my phone vibrated with a push alert. A gossip site posted a tidy narrative about a jealous sister trying to seize a healthy company. The phrasing matched the decoy memo I had seeded. I looked at Jessa. She nodded once. We anticipated this. We filed the TRO with the clerk and sent the notices. The committee's engagement letter went out within the hour. My escrow instructions reached the bank. The plan had moved from paper to reality. Outside wind skimmed the glass towers and made a sound like a high-distant violin. I thought of Lena opening the staff memo and feeling a sliver of air enter her lungs. I thought of Elliot waiting for a call he didn't want from a number he feared. I thought of my mother's pendant warm against my skin, as if it approved of difficult mercy. That evening, Lachlan tried a different front. He called our aunt, who called me with a script about forgiveness. I kept my voice polite. I've forgiven everything I can without lying. The rest belongs to consequences. She went quiet and didn't try again. At midnight, the committee chair confirmed scope. Vendors, travel, communications with any party connected to Odyssey or its trusts, devices used for work, even personal ones, were within reach if they touched company data. I watched the email go out and understood that the slope had tilted and the rocks were moving downhill. I slept for 3 hours and dreamed nothing. Morning would bring police sirens or quiet offices, and I couldn't know which. I only knew that the first crack had widened into a line you could put a hand inside. Part 4. Opens with the smear machine spinning itself into heat, the first dead end that forces me to improvise, and the moment I stop hiding what I found in Amaranth and make it impossible to ignore. Smoke into fire. The smear started before breakfast. Alerts stacked like cards. Anonymous quotes said I was erratic, vindictive money drunk. A wellness check request hit my door as if concern could wear a badge. I thanked the officers for their time and closed it gently. Jessa called as I set down the coffee I could not taste. We answer with facts. Not fury, she said. Hold the line. If they escalate, you trigger the staff letter, and we widen the circle. The special committee began imaging devices at headquarters. Forensics sealed off the obvious paths. Then we hit the first wall. The Nevada trust behind Odyssey was built to hide, and it did its job. The agent of record was a dead end with polite hold music. Banking logs older than 90 days were archived to a vendor that required consent we didn't yet have. A clean legal roadblock. I felt the floor tilt. Panic tried to climb. I pushed it down and pivoted. Benefit over ownership, Jessa had said. Prove use, not theory. I opened Amaranth and walked through it like a steady hallway. Airline points tied to an email alias Sable used for influencer brand pitches. Hotel folios with spa charges moved under client well-being. A driver receipt signed with a flourish that matched her public autograph. I cross-checked dates with her own posts, the ones meant to harvest envy. Tulum sunsets 2 hours after a flight purchased from a company card. Capri lunches that lined up with wire transfers labeled strategy review. Kyoto temples with a caption about work-life harmony on the same day Odyssey build a workshop that never existed. I built a timeline that a stranger could follow. Clean, boring, devastating. Then I chased the human piece. I called Raina and asked for headcount by site, then mapped payroll dates against covenants, so I knew exactly when stress would hit if Lachlan rattled lenders. The bridge and escrow covered the gap. That mattered to me more than any headline. While I worked, the blog storm thickened. A glossy profile painted Sable as a self-made strategist who had helped modernize a legacy brand. It quoted a source close to the CEO, calling me fragile. The phrasing echoed Lachlan's voicemail. I didn't write a response. I set a trap instead. I sent a narrow request to the committee to pull any messaging between executive devices and 2 listed bloggers for the last 6 months. If they had been sloppy enough to use company accounts, we would find it. At noon, I drove to the downtown warehouse where we stored trade show gear. The dock smelled like dust and warm tires. Gravel crunched under my shoes. Raina met me at the side door with a clipboard and a look that said she had slept with her phone in her hand. We had to cut 2 vendors last quarter to make Lachlan's budget, she said, voice low. We kept the night shift so we wouldn't miss shipments. She wasn't asking me for anything. She was telling me what was at stake. I thanked her and signed the chain of custody form for a set of banker boxes pulled from marketing's physical files. The manager rolled them out. My stomach tightened. This could be nothing. We opened the first box. Sponsorship decks, branded napkins, a foam prototype of a booth light shaped like a motto. Dead end. Second box. Paper that smelled like old toner. An expense binder someone had meant to scan later and didn't. Inside a tab labeled counseling. My fingers forgot how to breathe. I slid out a packet and read, Vendor Odyssey Dynamics Consulting. Attached a printed itinerary for a Vision offsite. Hotel Luna Mare Capri. Guests 2. 1 marked partner guest. There was a signed approval sheet with Lachlan's initials and a sticky note in Sable's handwriting that said, Keep this one off the portal. The sky outside the dock door was still a perfect blue, like the world didn't care whether the truth felt heavy. I breathed and kept turning pages. Tulum, Kyoto, same pattern, same initials, some approvals stamped after the travel dates. I photographed each page and logged every detail for the committee. When I looked up, Raina was watching my face, not the paper. You have what you need, she asked. Enough to stop pretending, I said. Back in the car, I called Jessa and read the top lines. She didn't waste time on satisfaction. We'll push this to the committee with a cover note about off-portal transactions. Chain of custody is clean. Preserve the originals. Now plan for blowback. He'll claim you stole or fabricated. We preempted the script. I recorded a short sworn statement on video with a notary present. I described where we found the binder, who witnessed the opening, how the pages were indexed, and why they had never been scanned. Then I mirrored the images to the committee's server and delivered the physical binder to their secure room. By 3, the smear pivoted. A press blast from Laughlin's PR firm accused me of misappropriating proprietary information and hinted at criminal exposure. It was clumsy and loud. Perfect. I triggered the staff letter. The subject line was simple: to everyone who keeps the lights on. I wrote about work that deserves respect. I wrote about the payroll bridge set aside for them. I did not mention names, trips, or sins. I promised only that their checks would clear while the board did its job, and that I would not spend $1 of peace bought with their fear. I hit send and set down the weight of it. Within minutes, my inbox filled with quiet thanks from addresses I didn't recognize. A driver, a picker, a temp who said this was the first time anyone had spelled their last name right. The responses steadied me more than any court filing. Mid-afternoon, the committee chair called. His tone was flatter than in Part 3, the kind of flat that carries power. "We have enough to expand scope," he said. "We're issuing device holds to additional custodians, including Ms. Hart." He did not use Sable's first name like a friend. "Also, your decoy worked. We captured messages from an executive phone to 2 entertainment blogs during business hours." He paused, letting the fact settle. "We will handle the leak. You keep your distance." Another wall fell a foot. At 4, Elliot, the accounts payable analyst who had misdialed me, reached out through Jessa as instructed. He had a copy of an internal chat where he had been told to reclassify counseling expenses and attach a late memo. The chat included a screenshot of a calendar block labeled S-Brand Strategy. The initial wasn't subtle. We arranged counsel for him under whistleblower protection. He asked me if he would be fired. I told him the truth. "I can't promise outcomes," I said, "but you will not stand alone." At 5, Helena asked for a private call. She had reviewed the binder images and the trust registry overlay. "We do this by the book," she said. "No theatrics. We issue notice to show cause." He explains under oath why company funds touched these dates, this vendor, these itineraries. If he lies, the record will carry it. If he tells the truth, he is finished. Her steadiness was a gift. We set the meeting for the next morning. That night, silence pressed against the windows like weather. Kaya came over with takeout and no questions. We ate on the floor because chairs felt too formal for the kind of tired living in my bones. I told her about the dock and the blue sky, and the sticky note that thought it could hide a ledger entry. She squeezed my hand once, and then changed the subject to a podcast about people who build clocks they will never live to see tick. "You're building one," she said. "It isn't revenge, it's time." After she left, I sat at my desk with the pendant in my hand and let one memory take its turn. My mother in a hospital room. Breath-thin voice, bright anyway. "You have a mind for scaffolding," she had whispered. "Build for those who stand on it." I tucked the pendant under my collar and prepared for morning. At 8, we would walk into a room with a long table and a glass wall. Laughlin would try charm and then heat. Sable would look at her phone and pretend not to read fear. Jessa would keep the record clean. I would put amaranth on the table where anyone could see it, and I would not apologize for the wait. Part 5 begins with that door closing. The air taking on the stillness of a storm eye, and a decision that ends one story so another can finally begin. The show cause morning. The room was glass and chrome, the kind that makes you hear your own breath. A recorder light blinked red at the end of the table. The committee chair swore us in. Jessa sat on my left, calm as a metronome. Helena faced Laughlin with the patience of a winter tree. Marcus kept his hands folded so tightly, the knuckles went pale. Raina had a legal pad with a single line at the top, roll out then quiet. Sable took a seat along the wall and pretended the chair was a throne. Laughlin's counsel opened with protest, all tone and posture, then yielded when the chair cited the vote and the hold orders already filed. We began with simple things: names, roles, dates. Then Jessa set the rhythm. "Mr. Calhoun, please explain why company funds paid invoices from Odyssey Dynamics Consulting for events matching these itineraries." She slid copies of the Capri Tulum and Kyoto packets toward him. He went for confidence. "Brand development intensives. Our sector is crowded. Perception matters. The chair asked for attendees. Cross-functional leaders, he said. He said it like a spell. Jessa asked for names. He stalled. A rotating group. She placed the Capri Hotel folio on the table. 2 guests, 1 marked partner guest. Who? He tried a pivot. A potential investor who prefers discretion. Jessa didn't blink. She showed the spa receipt signed by Sable, the driver slip, with her name, the email alias cross-referenced to her public posts within the same time window. Is Ms. Hart the investor? Silence, then a soft, hard no from the wall. Sable stared at the table. The chair made a note. Next exhibit, Jessa said patient. She presented the Nevada Trust Registry for Odyssey, the agent, the forwarding address on the floor of Sable's studio. Not a smoking gun, but the air grew heavy. Helena leaned in. We are not guessing. We are reading. Lachlan tried to make me the subject. Mira's been unstable. She sprang this to embarrass me. The chair lifted a hand. We will stay with the documents. He turned to Marcus. Did compliance flag Odyssey? Marcus's voice was clear. Yes. Were the concerns addressed? They were overruled. By whom? By the CEO. The pen in Lachlan's hand stopped moving. Jessa introduced Amaranth. No flourish, just an index that spoke for itself. She walked the dates down the page, noted edit stamps tied to Lachlan's login, and showed the pattern any accountant or juror could follow. The chair asked a clean question. Did you or did you not authorize reclassification of these charges as client well-being? After the travel occurred, Lachlan's lawyer asked for a recess. Denied. Then the unexpected twist arrived, the kind that knocks breath from a room. The forensics lead stepped in with a sealed envelope and asked to speak to the chair. A short sidebar. When the chair returned, his expression had lost all extra words. On the evening after the litigation hold was issued, an attempt was made from the CEO's device to overwrite the contents of a folder labeled Amaranth. The attempt failed because imaging had completed earlier that day. He did not raise his voice. This board does not tolerate spoliation. Lachlan pressed his lips thin. I was cleaning personal files. The lead handed over a screenshot of the secure delete dialog, the exact directory path, the timestamp, and a confirmation prompt that used company language only an admin would see. The lie collapsed under its own weight. Quiet moved through the room like a tide. Jessa did not gloat. Mr. Calhoun, the committee now requires immediate specific sworn answers. Who authorized Odyssey? Who benefited? Why were disclosures not made? He reached for volume and found none. This is a trap. Helena answered like weather. No, this is governance. She asked for the names of every person who attended any so-called intensive. He named 2 managers and a consultant who had left 3 years earlier. Jessa read back flight manifests and expense lines that contradicted him. Each one measured each one small enough to be undeniable. The hole widened. Sable's phone buzzed. She did not pick it up. The chair issued a directive on the spot temporary suspension of the CEO pending completion of the inquiry had been voted yesterday. Today, the board would entertain a motion for removal for cause. Lachlan tried one last angle. If you force me out, lenders call covenants. You'll crater payroll. I answered before anyone could panic. We secured a payroll bridge in escrow to carry 60 days while leadership stabilizes and the audit proceeds. It triggers the moment removal is recorded. I slid the term sheet across again, not as a threat as a net. Raina added, steady operations are prepared for transition. Vendors have been briefed on continuity plans. The youngest director, who had owed Lachlan favors, stared at the table and then spoke for the first time all morning. I vote for removal. It took one more round for the others to follow. Helena cast the final vote. Aye? The motion carried. The chair requested the resignation to avoid a press release that used the words for cause before the committee finished its work. Jessa slid the prepared papers forward, resignation, repayment terms, a confession of judgment if he defaulted cooperation with the audit, a covenant not to contact staff outside counsel. He looked at Sable like she might rescue him. She looked at the door. He tried to barter. Jessa didn't move. The alternative is immediate notice of cause and referral. The pen scratched the page. His signature looked like it was trying to outrun itself. Sable stood as if to speak, then sank back down. The chair collected the document and handed it to the secretary for the minute book. A career ended in the sound of paper settling. No applause, no venom, just the relief of a machine turned off before it burned the building. We moved into logistics. Raina would address staff with a short message about stability and respect. The committee would retain an outside firm to complete a forensic review. The payroll bridge would fund at close of business. Marcus would notify lenders with the proper language to avoid panic. Jessa asked for immediate return of all company property from Lachlan and any device belonging to Sable that had touched company mail. Counsel for Sable tried to argue status. The chair cited the policy every employee signs. Access equals duty. While the last details clicked into place, I watched Lachlan's shoulders change. Pride does not leave fast. It drains. He gathered his phone remembered and set it back down. He stood, then sat, then finally managed to leave the room without looking back. The door closed soft. The air loosened. Marcus let out a breath he'd been holding for a year. Helena's gaze softened, not toward Lachlan's absence, toward the people still in the room. She said only, "We will be precise. Precision is a kind of mercy." After I took the stairs down 2 flights to feel the steps under my shoes, Kaya waited in the lobby with a coffee I could finally taste. "How bad?" she asked. "Done," I said. "Not over, but done." We walked outside. The day had the clean light that comes after a storm. My phone buzzed with messages from warehouses and offices I had never visited. "Thank you for the bridge. Thank you for the memo. Thank you for saying our jobs matter." Those words did more for me than any headline could. A ping from the committee, the hotel in Capri, had verified the passport scan for the partner guest. It was Sable's. They had already sent the certification. Another ping, the blog leak, traced back to an executive device during work hours. The firm would handle the rest. I did not need to. I sat on a stone planter and let stillness do its work. The pendant warmed against my skin like a small sun. I thought about my mother and the sentence she gave me. Build for those who stand on it. I thought about Lena at the front desk and Elliot with his brave, shaky call. I thought about the employees who kept this whole thing breathing while the people on the posters burned money to look tall. Jessa joined us and gave me the words that close one chapter clean. Effective immediately. Raina is acting CEO. Your resignation package becomes a restoration fund. The committee will finish the audit. You will take your life back. I nodded. My voice surprised me. I don't want a throne. I want quiet systems that don't require a hero. She smiled, rare and real. That's exactly what we will build. We still had to draft a public statement neutral and careful. We still had to walk through lawyers and filings and 100 small knots. But the hard turn had been made. The story I lived under was no longer the story I had to carry. I looked up at the glass of the tower and saw my face in it, not as a ghost, as a person with a future. Part 6 begins after the dust settles with the audit completed, the money repaired, and a life rebuilt on purpose instead of permission. A quieter victory that leaves space for the people who kept the lights on, and a question for anyone listening who has ever been told to stay small, a different kind of quiet. 3 months later, the noise had thinned to a hum I could live with. The audit closed with a report as dry as dust and just as honest. It found what we knew and more. Odyssey was a shell in nice shoes. Invoices hid private trips inside soft words. Reclassifications happened after flights landed. The attempt to wipe Amaranth was logged and time-stamped. The committee recommended clawbacks policy fixes and formal censure. The board adopted it line by line. Raina was confirmed as CEO on a full vote. Marcus moved into a role that fit his spine. Compliance got teeth and budget. The payroll bridge funded once and then returned to escrow when cash flow steadied. Not one paycheck bounced. Not one night shift was cut to save face. Elliot kept his job and got counsel. He changed floors and managers. People in suits said process and meant protection. Lena passed her last exam and started full-time in logistics. I sent her a note that said, "Only I see you." She replied with a photo of her new ID badge and a smile that looked like a door opening. Sable faded the way people fade when attention stops feeding them. Her counsel handed over a phone the committee had a right to see, and the firm finished the chain of custody without me in the room. The blogs posted corrections that read like ellipses. No one apologized. It didn't matter. She took her studio sign down and moved to a different city to try a different audience. That is her right. Lachlan repaid what the agreement demanded in tranches that hit the account like a metronome. He kept a piece of his pride and not much else. I didn't message him. I didn't send the hotel clip. I didn't write a speech. I signed forms, read updates, and sat with the ache you get when the person you grew up with becomes a headline you stop clicking. Family grief is private and slow. It doesn't need witnesses. The company stopped using my name in rooms where my name was easy to use. That was part of the deal. I was done with the Gowi chase. I sold my stake exactly the way we planned, not as a tantrum, as a clean exit. When the wire cleared, I felt nothing at first. Numbers are not feelings. Then I took a breath and felt the space that opens when you put something heavy down. Jessa and I met at a quiet cafe and sketched what came next on a napkin that looked too small for the idea. We built the scaffold fund with a chunk of the proceeds, a simple structure that does one thing well. Emergency grants for employees in our city who keep businesses breathing but have no cushion when life hits hard. Broken transmission, rent after a surgery, childcare during a night shift. No panels, no speeches. Fast answers and receipts. Raina matched it with a company program so people inside the building could get help without crossing 3 bridges of shame. I stepped back once it was set. I didn't want to run it. I wanted it to run without a hero. At home, I changed the rooms on purpose. I took down the framed photos that told a story I no longer had to carry. I kept one on the shelf, my mother laughing at a picnic table, a paper plate balanced on her knee, and put the jade pendant in a shadow box with a small card that says "Simply Earned." I repainted the office a lighter color and bought a thrifted desk with curved edges that reminds me of old libraries. On the first morning after the last legal email fell quiet, I drank a cup of coffee all the way to the bottom and tasted it. Then I opened a file called New Work and wrote what I knew how to do, build systems that don't break when people breathe. A local nonprofit asked if I would help them design better guardrails around board decisions. I took the meeting and gave them a plan they could afford. A women's business center asked if I would teach a workshop about leverage and quiet record keeping. I said yes on one condition: we would spend half the time on ethics and half on how to say no without apology. The class filled in a day. I watched faces change as we walked through small tools anyone can use. You could feel relief settle in. Power isn't volume. It is knowledge plus timing plus a promise you are willing to keep. On Sundays, Kaya and I walk by the lake and talk about nothing heavy. She keeps trying to get me to try pottery. I keep saying maybe. Raina sends a monthly update stripped of spin. Revenue stabilized. 2 vendors replaced. Travel policies rewritten in language a new hire can understand. A daycare stipend pilot. A scholarship for frontline staff to finish degrees. None of this would trend. All of it mattered. The pendant warms against my skin when I wear it not as armor as memory. I still get the occasional message that tries to bait me into a feud. I delete them. The story I tell is not a fire to feed. It is a room built right. Helena sends a card every quarter with a sentence that lands like a stone in a river, keep it precise. Marcus sent a photo from a compliance training where the room actually laughed at a joke about receipts. Small miracles. Once in a grocery line, a woman I didn't know touched my elbow and said, "My partner works nights at your old warehouse. We saw the memo you wrote. We kept our apartment because of that bridge." Thank you. I nodded and felt heat sting my eyes in the freezer aisle, the place where life sneaks in. I still grieve the family I wanted. I let that be true without letting it run the room. People love a clean ending. This isn't that. It is better. It is work you do every day until it becomes habit and then culture. It is a board meeting without a bully. It is a warehouse manager who knows exactly how to flag a red line without risking a paycheck. It is a young analyst who chooses to tell the truth and gets to keep his badge. It is a CEO who takes the oath to serve the company and means the people on the floor as much as the logo on the door. It is quiet integrity, repeated until it is no longer brave, just normal. Tonight, I will hang one last frame. Inside is the first check we wrote from the Scaffold Fund, a tiny grant that kept a mechanic's car on the road so she could get to work. The memo line reads, "So you keep going." I keep that line for myself, too. If you're still with me, tell me when you listened and where you are, because I want to picture you there. Then tell me this in the comments: what would you build if you stopped asking for permission and started asking what would keep the lights on for everyone, not just the people on the stage?